In 1985, the band stepped into the studio like men reporting for a long shift at a very particular factory. The air smelled of new tape and older habits. Mark Knopfler set his guitar case down first. The others followed without hurry. They had come to capture something precise. Every take was measured against an invisible ruler only the group could see. A single wrong note could stall the day. So they waited for the right one. The humor arrived quietly. Someone joked that the mixing desk needed its own union card. Another suggested the guitars were being tuned by committee. The laughter stayed short. Work resumed before the echo faded. Craftsmanship showed in the small choices. A drum hit was replayed because the room felt too live. A vocal line was kept because one breath landed exactly where the lyric needed space. Nothing dramatic, just careful. By the end of the first week, the tapes held more silence than noise. That silence had been placed on purpose. The band listened back and nodded once. Then they started again. The studio clock kept its own dry count. Into that careful hush the guitars arrived, not to fill it, but to borrow a corner and make a quiet remark. Restraint was the first rule. Each note knew its place and refused to overstay. Mark's playing on the opening track offered the classic example. A single phrase looped with the patience of a man waiting for the punchline to land on its own. He never rushed the resolution. The line simply arrived, smiled sideways, and stepped back. Listeners often missed the wit on first hearing. That was the point. Later tracks showed the same economy turned playful. A descending run would hint at flash, then stop short like someone who had just remembered the bill was already paid. The band treated these moments as shared jokes rather than solos. No one needed to wink. The absence of extra notes did the work. Later rounds came from leaving space for the listener to finish the thought. One track carried a repeating motif so modest it could have been mistaken for background. Only on repeated plays did the small shift in timing reveal itself, a tiny adjustment that turned repetition into commentary. The humor stayed dry, never announced. By the final mixes, the guitars had become a running thread of understatement. They supported the songs without claiming ownership. Each player seemed content to let the next line land or not land. The restraint never felt like caution. It felt like the band had already told the best part of the joke and was simply enjoying the silence that followed. That same understated thread carried the album far beyond the studio walls. It turned a collection of measured songs into a chart marathon that refused to end. Brothers in Arms logged more weeks on the Billboard list than most bands manage in an entire career. The numbers felt almost rude in their persistence. Other records sprinted past and vanished. This one simply kept walking. Its restraint became the secret ingredient that made listeners hit repeat instead of moving on. In an industry built on volume and velocity, the album treated the spotlight like an optional guest. The joke was that it never needed the room to laugh first. Today, the measured pace still lands because everything else has sped up. Playlists flash by in seconds. Attention spans shrink to the length of a notification. Yet the record's deliberate spaces give the ear room to breathe and the mind room to wander. That same economy of notes now reads like quiet defiance. Younger players hear it and wonder why nobody rushes to fill every gap. The answer sits in the grooves. Less guitar meant more memory. Fewer fireworks meant the melodies could age without rust. The album proved that sometimes the best way to own the moment is to hand it back to the listener. Its legacy moves at the same unhurried tempo it always did. Charts come and go. Trends sprint and collapse. This record simply stays in the chair, enjoying the silence it helped create.